It's your girl Nikki St. Clair on these YouTube streets. You know what? I've been kind of listening to the pulse out there of black women, and more women have chosen the life of celibacy and living righteous and becoming self aware, and they have truly shown growth. I mean, super growth. I mean, through spiritually, their growth has really expounded. They're truly in tune with God. Um, they are walking around glowing. They're eating right. They're exercising. They're getting their credit together. They're taking precautions as far as regrowing their hair, their edges, damaged hair, they're cutting it off. They're choosing to do protective styles like locks and braids, and they are really, really just regrouping and embracing themselves. And I will be the first to say that through the years of even me growing up, I've seen black women, even in my family, give themselves away. Give themselves away by helping the black man. Oh, the black man is down, and the white man did this, and it's hard out here for them, and let's make them a steak. Let's save them the big piece of chicken, and the house has to be clean, and the children have to be neat, and the homework has to be done. And I mean, doing all of that and still being submissive. I've even had friends who have had parents, like mothers who didn't drive. The father never taught the mother how to drive. The mother never learned how to drive. She literally had to wait for her husband to get home to drive her where she needed to go, if she needed to go anywhere. And I mean, that's very old-fashioned and all of the above, but I've learned and watched such toxic behaviors as far as the actions showing that the black women were begging to be loved, begging to be respected, going out of their way to show up, even if the person did not deserve it, even if the man didn't deserve it. They took years of abuse and talking down to, because they were the most loyal confidant in these men's lives, and everything that the world made them feel that they were not. She would do all of the things that I said earlier, only to be met with disrespect, hostility. He wants to be left alone. He wants to sit on the porch, or to be met with abuse. And over the years, it's almost like we just kind of got used to and kind of normalized this behavior. And even when he would go out and cheat, I was looking at Fences, right? Well, in the movie Fences, Denzel would cheat with some woman named Alberta, until one day he brought a baby home, because Alberta ended up dying during childbirth. And as luck would have it, his wife decided to take the child in and raise it as her own. And you have a lot, if you look in the history of black families, you have a lot of those stories. It was very common. And over the years, I feel as though Black women have evolved. They've watched our grandmas, great grandmas make mistakes, take abuse, and it got them nothing. Um, we have grandmothers who died who never got on a plane before. We have grandmothers who died who never left or had been on a freeway, never had driven, never been to the snow, never been to California, never been to the beach. As we evolved and the world began to open up for Blacks through education and support groups and movements, our eyes began to open. And our grandmothers, a lot of them were sick and broken inside, but they lived vicariously through us as we began to go off to college and become more educated and powerful and stood 10 times down and believed what we believe, and we found our inner power. And many of us would come home and we would try to esteem and mend the broken in our family and talk to our grandmothers, our aunties, our sisters. And what would happen is the men did not like us. They would reject us. Grandfathers did not like when we came around. Fathers didn't like when we came around, and we would suffer abuse. But instead of just staying there and taking it, we would just get up and we would leave and explore feminism. And we took that energy, and instead of being broken and downtrodden and becoming submissive, we transmuted that energy to gain more strength and more power. And we went out and we got things done. You know, we embraced our afros and our looks, and many people would say that we were militant. You know, there was problems even at the job that I worked at. The first Black woman that worked there for years, when she came to work with an afro, it was only her and one other Black person. They started wearing afros to work, and it was a problem. They had to be set down in HR and asked not to wear their afros to work. But, you know, we developed character, and we developed a sense of knowing who we are, who we had always been. And that's when the magic began to happen. And a lot of Black men were in the movement as well, but they were plagued by the ways of the roots of what they came from. So yes, there still was infidelity, but you know, during the times of the 60s and the 70s and even the 80s, we were taught to esteem our men, to help them. Oh, we could do this together. I mean, this was true Black love, because we teamed together and we were fighting and we were trying to overcome something that appeared to be greater than us. And as luck would have it, many of us were separated through Vietnam War, through drugs. A lot of us were plagued, and we fell victim to drugs, to the redlining, to them just rounding up our Black men like animals, guys. And I have been witness. I have been a witness, even as a child, being in the Nickerson Gardens projects, and we were running from row to row to row, and the helicopters were out, and they did a big roundup of all the black men, and I saw the black women crying and the children running and seeing their fathers being put on their knees with their hands behind their head. And I never ever forgot that. And I, as a child, witnessed at least 12 in the projects, but they were all over the projects at all. I mean, it was a raid. And the black women were left to be alone and left to raise these kids and get on the county, and they just didn't have a choice, and we leaned on each other as black women, and we learned to fend for ourselves. We got jobs with the Pacific Bell telephone company and became carriers for the post office, and worked at schools and became administrators, and we educated ourselves and we empowered ourselves as women, even though we loaned for our kings at the time. And many black women would still hold their black men down as far as writing them and sending them care packages and giving them welcome home parties, and the whole hood is there. And we never really explored what they went through, the brokenness that they experienced when they went into prison or anything. But we as women, as nurturers, as queens, we are so powerful that we were able to discern the brokenness, and we wanted to help them. We wanted to mend them. We wanted to love on them. We wanted to spruce them up and give them whatever they needed to restore them and make them feel like a man so that they can take their rightful place. And I want to say somehow there was a disconnect. Many men were not able to get it together because they had experienced such traumatic trauma when they were gone. From abuse to God only knows what. And a lot of these men that were broken had mental illness that was undiagnosed. Some was diagnosed. Some ended up being sent away. And some got on drugs. And once Reagan hit, he released everybody who was mentally ill onto the streets. They began to self-medicate, and a lot of our black men begin to integrate with drugs and mentally ill people. And so from there, if you are on drugs and the drugs make you extremely aroused, you're going to go for anything that's there. And the mentally ill people begin to self-medicate with crack cocaine, as well as the broken men. And then you had crack babies that came along, who, might I add, got lost in the system. People were opening up houses everywhere with these children, and these children began to go to school with our children. And at first we were there, we're like, hey, who's this kid in the class? He's bullying my child, he's stealing from my child, he's going into the bathroom and attempting to do things to or with my child, and my child is being exposed to different behaviors. And once again, you have someone, one child with mental illness, who is an addict or comes from the mother who is an addict, and they were born addicted to crack. And then you have children who are in a learning state, who should be learning their lessons, but they're learning the behaviors of these crack children that are going to school. And then somehow they're being bullied, and the focus from the teachers go to the children with the troubles. So the regular kids are like, well, he's getting all the attention. Possibly if I act out, I can get attention too. Then they come home with bad habits, and then the mother is left to discipline. And it's like swimming through an ocean full of sewage. In order to get your education, in order to make the right decisions, because you have a lot of kids out there who are broken, who have learning disabilities, and they weren't really truly assessed, and they were put in these classrooms with kids and everyone was acting as if these kids belong there. They deserve to sit there next to the kid with no learning disabilities and no addiction. And it really frustrated. It really, really frustrated kids. It frustrated the teachers. Then you had security that had to come to the schools. You had counselors, and you had these kids to be assessed. And now they're on Ritalin, and they're on, there's something called ADD and ADHD. And these kids were getting checks and getting medication. And then you had single moms out here with children that did not have the same problems as these kids. However, they were emulating and imitating what they saw because they wanted the same attention. And so a lot of these kids were being misdiagnosed. And then you had other parents that were willing to play along with things and allow these children to take these meds and be misdiagnosed so that they can receive a check. Because overall, they felt like they just wanted to make it. And things had gotten tough out here. So many people in the 80s were laid off. They were on drugs. They were addicted to soap operas and talking on the phone all day and eating government cheese and eating unhealthy. And I mean, it was a mess. Many people became lazy and very tired, might I add. And they began to fall into the stereotypes of what the man, quote unquote, was putting out there. And I'm a firm believer that I do believe in chemtrails. I believe that they were spraying us and making us lethargic and lazy. And I witnessed a lot of people just not having the umption and the gumption to get dressed and be on time and be presentable and move forward with education, because I'm telling you, that crack epidemic, y'all, it really, really messed up the Black community. A lot of the kids were being molested by uncles and aunties and fathers and mothers. They were being sold off. And it was just a mess. And unfortunately, the light switches got turned on sexually with these kids. And then you still have kids that were going to college, but they were very highly sexual. The music became sexual, the dances, the freakniks, all of that. By the 90s, oh my God, we had so many teen pregnancies, y'all. People were not finishing school, and they were falling victim to the circumstances. A lot of them did not graduate. You had baby daddies, baby mamas. You didn't know who belonged to who. You had people, grandmothers did not. They were dying, early, because they had medical issues and medical. They weren't advanced medically back then, and it was just like families were getting broken up and torn up. And I'm saying all of that to say and bring it back full circle that the black men were broken, and so were the black women. But it was something about a black woman. It was like we're so resilient, and we're able to come back together or regrow ourselves like a starfish, like regenerate the brokenness. And a lot of us found salvation in faith, and we were in the choirs, and we began to preach and read the word and just truly get close to God. And I'm not going to say that the black church was perfect. I'm not going to say that there wasn't a lot of scandal in the church and that there weren't a lot of crooked preachers that were manipulative, that was literally pimping the people of God for money. But what I will say is that there was a meeting between our souls and the higher power of Jesus Christ. And we lasted, and even though we fast and we prayed, God came in and he worked things out. And our blessings have fallen over the years, over the generations. And we have been blessed like never before. It used to be when you saw someone in a Mercedes Benz, it was because they were selling drugs, y'all. Or when you saw a black family in a house, it was because their grandparents had they had inherited it some type of way. But we emerged and we furthered our education, and we became a force to be reckoned with. But a lot of times, like I said once before in another video, you have the church that put it out there that something was wrong with you if you weren't married by 24. And the pressures became great, and we began to play musical chairs and just try to dance with anybody, just as long as we're sitting down, as long as we're settling down with somebody. And then you're stuck with a person that doesn't love you, and you're stuck trying to work things out with someone who is just was not technically meant for you. But because it was just so unholy to not be married, and there must be something wrong with you because you're 24, you're 26, and you're not married, We didn't want that stigmatism, so we were forced. Socially, we didn't want that we didn't want to wear that scarlet letter on us, that brand, that we were just hussies, that we had a Jezebel spirit, that no one wanted us. So a lot of us married wrong. And even a lot of us with Black women with children already remarried. And they remarried the wrong people. So we were affected by our stepmothers and our stepfathers, and we were treated like a quote-unquote stepchild. And then there's another sense of brokenness that you had to grow and get through, and hopefully you weren't so tarnished or taught the ways of these people, because you had a lot of step parents that were very jealous of their own stepkids, or because we looked like our mothers or we looked like our fathers. It was a constant reminder of that person's first love or where they came from. It was a constant. They felt like we were stumbling blocks, like we were in the way of their happiness, and they treated us as such. And from there, a lot of us were broken and felt rejected, so we had to overcome that. What I'm saying is, there's something about us Black women who would always be so resilient and always have so much hope and so much favor with with the Lord, and so much favor with society, because they felt like, oh, well, she's not a threat and she can work here. So we began to further education and get government jobs and qualify for programs and grants and move forward. And we wanted to pull on our husbands and put them on and get their resumes together and get them a job at I think it was called McDonnell Douglas, or a lot of Northrop. Those are places out here, different factories. And Northrop is now SpaceX, owned by Elon Musk. But we just had so many union jobs and government jobs to where we were able to put our paychecks together and actually have something. I know my godmother, she was a carrier for for USPS, which is the postal service, and her husband did very well as well, and they were able to buy homes in Compton. I mean, beautiful homes, and a lot of us became homeowners, and then drugs just boom struck. And people were moving out, and people were moving in with their grandmothers, and the houses became that were once full of life, and you could smell the green grass being cut, and you can see fathers working on the cars on the weekend and watering the grass, and hey, Mr. Jones, hey, Mr. Johnson, the Robinsons live down there. You know, the Williams live across the street. All of those families began to diminish, and the houses became dilapidated, y'all, and for sale. You know, and then we got new neighbors, and they spoke Spanish, and I don't know if there was definitely a divide. I'll say that, because if you're used to Mr. Williams living across the street and you guys borrow each other's wrenches or have a beer, or if you have a backyard boogie or some type of block club, you know, there was unity in that. And after a while, there was a big separation. and we didn't have block club parties anymore. And many of our black men either died from lung cancer and smoking cigarettes and being exposed to everyday chemicals at work, or they got on drugs, or their children got on drugs, and they've put their house up and they end up losing it. It was tragedy. But I'm saying all of that to say all of these things have happened, and the black woman was still able to stand. And unfortunately, over the years, we would give our magic away because we were taught, oh, he just needs love. He needs a hug. My black man is broken. Let me be there for him. Let me provide a home that he's never had, because he was beat by his stepfather. He was misunderstood by his teachers. He never got a good Christmas. I grew up in a good home. I'm going to help provide that. And we became mothers to these broken men instead of being their helpmate, their partner. And we began to carry them. And because we began to carry them, we were depleted of our energy. We were, especially to the men that were so broken and rebellious, because they felt like, my balls are in her purse. I don't feel like much of a man at all. And then we had the black women that, yeah, you are a man. You're the head of the house, baby. You doing really good. You doing this. And we coddled them, and they never really appreciated it because they already knew that they weren't taking their rightful place as far as being a man. And it's because of that they began to seek that void, to fill the void outside of home. So a lot of them became alcoholics. A lot of them began to gamble. A lot of them became addicted to sex. They cheated. They had outside families. And it just broke us down more and more. And after a while, guess what? Our kids grew up and saw the arguments and heard it. And a lot of the women were like, you know what? I don't want no man. So during the 90s, there was a lot of threesomes. A lot of people were sexually free. And then emerged women who are lesbians. And I remember when we would see girls that with short hair and blonde hair, and they would wear a lot of silver, it just kind of meant they were with the lifestyle. And then we saw more and more women turning into studs and just not wanting no parts of a man. And then we found that stud life was not an easy life, because they had taken the ways and their pains of yesterday, whether it be that they were crack babies, or they were victims of abuse, or they came from a broken home, and they took bad habits that they had learned, that they thought that they had buried, into the relationship, and they began to beat their girlfriends. And there were so many domestic abuse calls because a lot of these women were broken. They came from group homes, And they said, well, we don't need no man. We can make a life for ourselves. And they did not get along. They didn't get along, y'all. They cheated on each other. They beat on each other. They fought. And they did. The turn up was real. And then, it was just, as of lately, I've realized that a lot of us have decided to be single, choose a life of celibacy, pick up our crowns, fortify ourselves, focus on ourselves and not be distracted. And I'm telling you, more and more Black women are doing this, and we are becoming more powerful than ever before. And we are not quick to give our essence away to a man, to a woman. A lot of us are choosing not to have children because we don't want our kids to suffer the way that we suffered. And we don't want to confuse them. And we already know we are swimming through a sewer system. And anything else would be a distraction. I see a lot of the women, they are living a life of celibacy because they've decided to take their power and their magic back. And the magic is being restored, y'all. And I'm telling you, a lot of us Black women are not out here having sex. And because of that, the broken Black man that we once was there for, that we would mend and put back together and esteem them and build them up, they are broken, and they are going from race to race, and from this person who's this sex and this non-binary and this bisexual. They are seeking some sort of a supplement of what they once had from us, and it just can't be done. And they're walking around and they're broken, and then they're getting together and they're blaming us and they're hating us and they're spewing different things and saying that it's our fault, and they're not taking accountability. And at the end of the day, these men, they don't like themselves, they don't like each other, they don't like us. And a lot of them really hate us because the games that they once played and the magic that they were able to sap from us and deplete us, the supply has been cut off, and we are beginning to truly emerge and really understand us and our purpose and heal our wounds. And I'm telling you right now, if we realize, if we are not who we are at full capacity, we are good for no one. And we were being dragged to the gutter, y'all. But I'm telling you, I'm not trying to say that all men are bad. This is not a video to beat down the Black man. I'm just saying that we as a people are a victim of circumstances, and Black women have always been the backbone of our society. And by us caring for and mending and giving our magic away prematurely before we became who we were meant to be, our society had died off greatly. And this is like, we are really rising up. This is a phenomenon. We are rising up, and we're choosing to take our power back, and we are choosing to run the race and get to the finish line like Shikari. We're willing to not be distracted. We have a mindset of getting to that finish line and not dying prematurely, not being distracted, choosing to keep our noses clean, and paying our bills, paying our taxes, paying our tickets, paying our insurance, doing whatever we have to do to be upright and powerful. So you will be seeing more and more of us out there who are walking in power in our faith, there will be something about us you will see, and you'll be able to notice who's who. Because we're going to glow different. We're going to move different. We're out there and we ain't playing. And we are willing to truly move by ourselves. If you're not evenly yoked, why are you here? And guess what? In all of that, and us being more and more connected to God, our discernment is stronger, and we can see who's playing and who's not. We can see who's in it to win it and try to deplete us, and who's not. And a lot of us ain't falling victim. We've been looking at Pop the Balloon, y'all. And I'm telling you, that is the new mentality of the Black woman. They could see you, they can smell you from a mile away. And if you ain't coming and you ain't on the level, they will pop the balloon. And more Black men are going to be rejected, and more Black men are going to hate us. But we got to keep it pushing, because we've been held down too long. We've given you life, and we received our flowers at our funeral. We ain't having it no more. So I want to say, Black queens, I'm proud of you. You've taken care of yourself. You've invested in yourself. You've invested in your health. You've learned skills. You do hair. You make plates. You have started businesses. And you have evolved. And you are not allowing anybody to stop you. And I want to let you know that through God, you are protected. And you have babies that are watching you, that are inspired. Even the man-child is looking at you and saying, my mama is making moves. My mama don't have no men running through here. Have you ever known a single mother to have a man and he don't like that man, because that child can see what that man is about? He can see that man as a distraction, or even that friend. It could just be a homegirl that comes over, and you'll be like, I don't know why Junior don't like her. He do not like her, girl. He just go to his room. He just roll his eyes and he just come huffing and puffing and saying she at the door. That's because that child, his temple hasn't been defiled yet, and he's able to see. He's very godly, and he's close to God, and he's go close to the angels. Listen to your kid. Listen to your dog. Listen to your cat. If that's what you got, I'm telling you, pay attention. So anyways, this video has gone on longer than I really wanted it to. I don't know if it's gonna reach one person, 100 people, 1,000 people, 100,000 people. But if it reaches one and it resonates, I've done my job. I'm Nikki St. Clair. Thank you so much for stopping by. You could have been anywhere, but you're here, and I truly appreciate you. Thank you, and you have a wonderful, wonderful day. All right, like, comment, and subscribe. Take care. Bye.